And let's see, do I need to adjourn the regular meeting temporarily? Okay, we're going to adjourn the regular or go into recess on the regular board meeting and open the public hearing for exemption from competitive bidding. This public hearing is for the purpose of taking comments on the draft findings for an exemption from the competitive bidding requirement. The projects included within this class are the TES and TMS seismic upgrades. So Brent, I'll let you kind of expand on that, and then John's available if anyone has questions.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Campbell. This is exciting because it means that we're getting ready to do our final projects really for the bond at the for the seismic upgrades. We've done this before. CMGC works well with us in the past, and if there's any public comment, we welcome that. And if not, we'll answer any question.
Okay, any public comment for the competitive bidding hearing? Hearing none. Any questions from the board? Okay, public hearing is closed. We'll now re-enter the regular meeting, and we'll start with accentuate the positive. Brandon?
Welcome. Hello. Welcome to Orchard Hill. Brandon Hammond, principal. Just a few items. I don't know if anyone, how far the video got, but today we did a self-manager activity. We went bowling, had about 83 students going there, first grade through fifth. Great opportunity for the kids. And just a reminder, our self-manager program is all about academics, keeping up, coming to school, attendance, and behavior. And these are students that have all applied by themselves. So we have about 87 total students. The other thing that we started today is we did our attendance initiative. That is recognizing every month students who have 90% or better. They received a certificate, they got a Smartie, and then as you come in that open door, everyone, all the these attenders will sign their names and maybe do a little picture, and we'll do that every month. We had over 200 students, so not too bad. We're still in that 65%, so much growth to do. And the other thing is thank you to the high school. So starting tomorrow, we're going to have 6 high school students come every other Friday and hang out with some of our students at recess. If, as you notice, we have this amazing field that we hardly ever get to use because we just don't have enough people to man it. And so the high school kids are going to help with that. So super excited. And finally, huge shout out. We have our parent bingo night. I gave flyers to everyone. It's next Friday, 5:30 to 7:30. Hope you can all come. And also just a big thank you to all the parents donated. I mean, the baskets that they did are amazing, and it would absolutely not have happened without their help. So thanks to the parents. Heather?
I'll just talk from here. Good evening, board. Heather Lowe from Talent Elementary. Just a few quick things to share. Next week, we have our annual talent show on Wednesday at 6. It's at the Rose Theater. So I would hope that some of you can make it. It'll be probably pretty silly. It's not going to be as big as it has been in the past, but we anticipate next year it'll get even bigger. I want to give a shout out to our teachers who have made their way through their first report card reporting session using our new Power Teacher Pro, which they've never done. So it was a learning curve, but I'm excited about the reports that families will be getting this week. Also, speaking of mid-year stuff, we just administered our iReady mid-year diagnostic and have some really good data to share back. From the beginning of the year at Talent, we've increased our students in math, the area of math, by 16% who are now on grade level, and in reading 27%, which is remarkable because last year from beginning to end, we only increased that by 25%. So we're looking on track to hit our goals for the year. Also on track with our attendance campaign. We're inching back up there. We've been really hitting it hard at Talent. Again, every day going in and say, hey, it matters that you're here, and handing out Smarties and all the, little treats that we can do to bribe them to come to school. And then last but not least, I did want to share that today, 23 Phoenix Talent employees were taking it up. It's an equity training. There's 4 of us, Kelly, Shauna, myself, and Carrie Brooks, who are helping facilitate that. But it's just a testament to the commitment our district has to train our staff and really lean into the work of equity. So we're excited. Even Aaron came. So we got another day tomorrow and just great work that's going to be happening. A lot of good momentum around our professional development equity. Yes. The 8th. It's what, next Wednesday? 6 o'clock.
Thanks, Heather. Hey, good evening, board. My name is Shauna Schleif, principal at Phoenix Elementary School. And like Heather was saying, there were 23 staff members at that Taking It Up training. And so the absence was kind of felt. So I just want to give a shout out to me because she was the principal at Phoenix Elementary and she got to deal with some fun things today. I want to say thank you for Tiffany. She does a lot of amazing things. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about her award and everything like that. Wanted to echo, I'm heading out. I wanted to echo a little bit about what Heather said around professional development. Heather and I and our office managers got to go to a professional development training called Breakthrough Coaching. And what I really appreciated about this was it helped us really prioritize our work in terms of what really impacts students and their growth. And how often are we as administrators doing things that really don't help students learn and grow, but we're like on our email treadmill and things like that. So we came away with some really great practical strategies on how to be really effective leaders. So we've already put some really great things into place and we're feeling pretty proud about that. And then finally, I just wanted to say we are thick in doing some strategic planning and doing some school improvement work and talking about the difference between an initiative, which is something that we're learning and taking and implementing into our schools, and a strategy. And so we've talked a lot about leadership teams with you. And what I'm really excited is that we're seeing the shift of taking that from being an initiative that we are beginning to it being actually a strategy that's making change in our schools. And so that feels really, really positive. And I want to give a shout out to all of our leadership teams at all 3 elementary schools, because it takes a village, and all of our teachers and classified employees are working really hard on our school improvement goals. So that's it from PES.
Good evening, board. Chair Campbell. It's good to see the entire board here. It's nice to see all 7 of you guys. So glad you guys all could make it. Aaron Santi, Phoenix Talent Rising Academy. Just a couple things for you guys. You guys know that I've told you before that we try to do once a month some kind of a get together, either a field trip or some person activity for all of our students. And so we had our 1st through 8th graders get involved with a Bugs R Us presentation, and they were doing, they had fun dissecting owl pellets. So it was kind of equal parts disgusting and interesting, and they all got to walk away with a souvenir. So I sure hope that was okay at home. Our next field trip is going to be at the Wildlife Images. That's going to be on March 3rd. So that'll be our field trip for next month. So we're excited about that. And I also wanted to echo what I mentioned about our teachers and our elementary teachers in the report card. I really want to give a shout out to the IT department, particularly Eric over there, doing a ton of work to design those. They look really professional now. They're going to give a ton of information to parents. You're going to see, for those of you guys who have elementary kiddos, you're going to see your student assessed in many, many, many standards. So it's not going to be your typical report card. So I think it's going to give our parents a lot more information about how their students are progressing. So that is it.
Good evening. Sorry. Good evening, Allison Haas, Talent Middle School. Semester 2 has started at Talent Middle School, and students are settling into their new schedules and routine. Our staff worked really, really hard to finish out semester 1 and really support our students into getting into semester 2. A lot of our students also have new semester-long enrichment classes that they started this week. So really a huge shout out to our enrichment team teachers, Brian Taylor, Brett Eason, Sandra Tringolo, Iris Moya, Peter Daney, and Aleda Mark for their creativity and flexibility in providing so many really engaging enrichment opportunities for our students. And we're really excited. We're offering some new enrichment classes this semester, including Sandra's theater class and some math intervention classes being taught by Iris and Peter. Yesterday, we also started our after-school fly fishing class, which is a really cool, fun, unique opportunity for our students. So a huge thank you to TMS parent and volunteer Jim Andras for providing this opportunity for our students. And then, of course, a huge thank you to Janelle and the first student for providing transportation for our after-school programming. And then lastly, we found out that TMS Science Department received a $1,000 grant for the purchase of microscopes. So with this grant, we'll be able to purchase a new class set. So huge thank you to Terry Stewart, Jason Lynch, and Scotia Wise in our science department for making the grant happen. And that's Talon Middle School. Hi, everyone. Kate Cross, PHS. We echo a lot. I'm always going last. Like, yes, and that too, and that too. So we also started second semester, and first just want to shout out to our student resources team, which is our graduation coaches, our school counselors, and our academic advisor, and our registrar who does a lot of the tracking of classes. We've had a very smooth transition, and we have a lot of students, even though making a few changes, a lot of placements that kids are very happy about, trying some new courses, and just really smooth. So really thankful for their hard work in that. Also, a student resource team shout out yesterday at lunch. We had a barber battle. You might have caught that on social media. It's where we actually invited 2 previous PHS grads who are now barbers to come and demonstrate some of their skills in front of all of our students in the lunchroom to pique some interest about barbering, maybe beauty school of some sort. And that was organized by Jordan Ruiz, whose focus, he's a counselor of ours, but his focus is on college and career prep. And we were able to get a lot of students who maybe hadn't thought about barbering before to come and ask some questions. And it was also just great to welcome back some alum. So shout out about that. And then also, if you know a school counselor, next week is National School Counselors Week. And so we have some awesome things planned to honor our whole student resources team, but our counselors and our academic advisor who just seriously make our jobs so much easier and just take care of kids really well. So we're excited about that. We've also spent a lot of time Smarter Balance test prepping, which is not everybody's favorite, but we're really excited to be able to support teachers and juniors in their next steps for Smarter Balance testing. So we've spent a lot of time doing that. And always loving the student recognition pieces that we're able to do. So we honored Student of the Month. At PHS, we don't just honor students who have like the best GPA, but we actually pick a character trait every month, and a staff nominates students from every grade level so that we're getting to recognize not only those who are high academic achievers, but also, offer so much in our community. And so we do that every month. But I haven't mentioned that here before, so I wanted to let you know about that. And then also we are getting ready to do our attendance awards and honor our students for the first semester, and honor roll, which is a really big deal at the high school because kids get giant cookies and it is really an event. So if you want to see that, we'll send some calendar invites and you might even come by and grab a cookie. Lastly, we are really excited about launching a longstanding relationship we've had with Pirates to Raiders, but it's just been a little bit of a battle to get that going. And we're happy to say that we were able to get our existing cohorts up and running last month in January. And we are actually getting started with our 10th grade cohort this month as well. And so just that's a win for us and a win for students in our community. So that's all from PHS.
Thank you so much. Anything from the board? All right. Student representative report. Good to have both of you here. Who's going first?
So first off, both of our girls and boys basketball teams last Friday won their first league game, and that they were both nail biters. Everyone it was just, the gym was alive with spirit. It was so much fun. And as soon as the clock on the boys game hit double zeros, everyone just went nuts because we won, and it was against Hidden Valley, and that was a pretty tough team to beat. And for the past 2 Saturdays, the PHS baseball and softball teams have put on their JPAL camps for kids. There are 44 kids out there roughly right now, and it's fun working with kids. It's been really enjoyable being out there with them and seeing everyone just come back to get ready for season and stuff. And Link Crew is going to have a pizza party for all the freshmen that got Freshman of the Week. So there's going to be about 26 kids that got nominated by a Link Crew leader because they saw them doing something good, actually engaging in Link Crew stuff, and they got nominated for it and then won it. So we're putting on a little pizza party for them, all the kids that got it in the first semester. So that's pretty cool. And the last thing I have is our annual FFA auction that is coming up on February 26th in the Commons at the high school.
Okay, so I would just I would also like to add on what Ms. Cross said about how our semester, our transition into semester 2 was really good. And a lot of people that I've talked to are really excited about starting new classes. And also I'd like to mention that leadership has really been trying to add more kindness into our school and be more positive. So we're working on something called they're just kisses slips, which is like a little piece of candy, a kiss, and we're going to add a little positive quote to the bottom and just pass it out to kids who we feel like may need an extra pick-me-up, and I'm really excited about that. We're also working on a lot of Valentine's Day activities, which is really fun. We're doing a candy jar, which is a guessing game for everyone to do. Yeah, we're really excited. We're doing a lot more spirit days. We're trying to add more spirit into our school just by brainstorming new ways for spirit days and spirit activities, as well as new activities at lunch and break.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any questions for our student reps? Is she joining us? Oh, great. Hi, McKenna. Do you have a report to share?
Hi.
Hello.
It's being a little glitchy right now. Sorry.
Sounds great.
Okay. Good. Hi. Sorry. I was also gonna just talk with Bree how leadership's been teaming up to do a lot of stuff. We're also planning on doing an event later in the year, towards prom, where we do a dance off at school. And so right now we're coming up with ways to get everyone involved. So that's going to be pretty cool. And yeah, we're just excited about that right now. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Love your records on the wall there. That's great.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
No, it's great. I love it. Okay. Awesome. Next is citizens' comments. Do we have anyone in the audience who wishes to speak before the board? Do we have anyone online, Chris, besides McKenna? Okay, great. I will save everyone that long reading. And I will go to the superintendent report. Mr. Barry?
Thank you, Chair Campbell. First thing I have is last week, and all I'm going to say is Tiffany Lambert is the OACOA Member of the Year. We don't want to bring a lot of attention or anything like that, because I learned my lesson last week about how she doesn't like attention or maybe want to be honored, but it was a great event. The COSA Winter Conference, and when she realized the person was talking about her, I got a really strong glare my way. And then you saw the video where she was happy to accept on the behalf of Phoenix Town School. So well deserved, Tiffany. Next, I have a few things here to kind of run down. In your blue folders, you will see just a kind of a mid-year review on my goals that I have for the year. And I just have a reflection in red ink in there. And if you have any questions, I can certainly entertain those, or if you want to chat about them later or even at the next board meeting. So those are there for your review. Also, we do have some out-of-state trips coming up. FFA is going to a couple events in California, which is great. I know they've been traveling quite a bit, and it's great to get experience around the West Coast on some other programs in FFA as well. And Beatrice is doing a great job with that. Also, the Outdoor Discovery Program is going to go to Tule Lake Wildlife Refuge coming up. So I wanted to share that with you. Good news, we received an application for Budget Committee. You may know Hector Flores. He works at the City of Talent, a longtime partner, former employee of ours, and has submitted his application. And so you can review that, and we can put that on for action item next time in preps for the Budget Committee season. Next, we do annually apply for the Carpenter Foundation for our role with SOU in the summer. And we have summer programs there, and the Carpenter Foundation has, I believe, been supporting us for over a decade and maybe even longer than that with Academia Latina at SOU in the summer. We've had close to 250 students attend SOU in the summer for that, and it's a great program. Many of our students end up being counselors for the programs as they grow up. And then I just want to finally finish with, it's been a busy week, but a great week. On Tuesday, we had our first meeting with the Culver Road project that we have. We are moving closer to getting that property into the UGB. And we had an initial meeting with staff, coaches. We had 2 neighbors there, which was great. And we just kind of brainstormed hopes and dreams, and then shared some concerns. So that was a great start to that meeting. A really good opportunity for our district to have a community space for our kids in our community. And then last night, we had another meeting on our strategic planning team. And Peyton was on that. She's had a busy week as well, but just a great voice for really shaping what it means to support kids and staff and families in our district for the next several years. We have more data than we ever have had looking at creating the strategic plan, and we're continuing to create strategies for some themes to improve on. So we're really excited about that. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Brent?
How upset was Tiffany when she saw the big old banner? I drove by like 2 days after the presentation. It was like, whoo, whoo. I did laugh. Sorry.
After the Delta Flare, I thought about calling and saying, could you please take that down?
Cancel the banner.
I was with Robert, and I was like, ooh. He's like, do you want to take a picture and send it to somebody? I'm like, I'm sure somebody's already told her that. Anyway, we're so thankful for you, Tiffany. Congratulations. Well deserved.
Congratulations. And for being surprised, you did a great job in your remarks too. It was really, really cool to see. So if we have to hang a banner on that district office every year, it won't be the worst thing ever. So congratulations. Next is the consent agenda. I would ask whoever makes the motion for the consent agenda, because we're approving this agenda tonight, in that if you could include in your motion to move the SOESD local service plan to item 1 under information and discussion, that would be super helpful. I want to be respectful of the fact that we have a guest here with us, and also give staff an opportunity to hear that presentation. So next I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the addition of moving Southern Oregon ESD to the beginning of our information and discussion.
I'll second. Oh,
Sorry, I missed it. Who seconded? Besides the squelch? Sarah, thank you. Okay. Any objections to the consent agenda? Consent agenda is approved. And next we have action items. First item is Resolution 22-9, requesting an exemption from the public contracting rules.
Yeah, Chair Campbell, with our robust public hearing earlier and getting all our input, this is what the action item is for, and then taking in any other public comment. But this is to get us started on the process of completing those projects.
Excellent. Thank you. Have a motion? Okay. Thank you, Rick. Second.
I'll second.
Moved by Rick, seconded by Dawn, and we will now vote. Or do we have any discussion on this?
I'll just say that this process has worked well for us in the past. It's good to see it continuing to move forward because
Definitely.
we've had excellent results with it.
Excellent. Thank you. Rebecca?
Yes.
Polly?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Rick? Dawn?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. Resolution 22-10, Community Renewable Energy Grant Program Application.
Yeah, this is exciting as well. There's a lot of opportunity, and John has shared some of the grants and leveraging funds that we have the opportunity to obtain. This is one of them. This is a opportunity to receive a large amount of money for some renewable energy. We have to apply to be pre-app to even go on to the next step, and that's what this resolution is asking the board to allow us to continue forward. And I don't know if there's anything else.
Wonderful. Entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution 22-10 approving the application for the community energy grant program.
Thank you, Nancy. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Moved by Nancy, seconded by Sarah. We'll go this way. Dawn?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Polly?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. You're getting closer. Okay, the next is the audit summary. I have some remarks just in case Rick doesn't. But Rick, did you have anything you wanted to share about the audit report? Or
I'll wait for your.
okay,
report.
are you just let me know if I mess up, okay? I'm a hit or miss accountant. So just a couple of things to point your attention to. Dawn and I had the opportunity. Was it just you and I, Dawn? Was Sarah there with us? Just you and I. Okay. We had and staff to meet with the auditors a few weeks ago, and not surprisingly, the financial statements audited received the highest auditor report according to the general accepted accounting principles, which is an unmodified report. No material weaknesses or deficiencies in internal controls or materials or material non-compliance were reported. And then the federal programs auditor report, Title I and ESSER, was also unmodified, and no material weaknesses or deficiencies were identified. So that summary is on page 65. If you're scoring at home, page 5 notes our ending fund balance of all funds of $20,332,000. including of which the general fund was 7.567 million. Special revenue fund was 7.548 million. The debt service was 344,000, and our capital projects fund was 4.872 million. And so that's on page 5. And then on page 1, the statement of our net position was 8.33 million. That increased by 5.86 million from the prior year. And that was mainly due to a decrease in bond liabilities and PERS and post-employment liabilities. So that's all I have to say. Rick, do you have anything to add?
What you just said was perfect.
Well, I had a lot of help, Rick, so don't give me too much credit. All right. I will, do we take action on this, I guess, huh? To accept it?
I don't think we need to. If there's
Okay.
no objection.
All right.
Just-
Is there any objections or questions about the audit report?
I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the decrease in bond liabilities and PERS, why was that? Why did that improve so much?
Yeah, Yasmin, you may be able to speak to this better than I can, but some of our post-employment, we have early retirement benefits, and this board sunsetted that in 2002. And so some of that comes off of our liability. And that's the one I know of, and I'll let Yasmin speak to the others.
Okay, so basically the decrease on the bond liabilities is because we've been paying the principal and interest on the bond. And for PERS and the post-employment liabilities, they went down as well just because the market was pretty good. So then they had a lot of gains on PERS. So the unfunded liability for all districts went down. And that's the reason why it affected our net position. Any other questions?
Good with that? Okay.
That's fine.
Any other questions?
Are we going to make a motion to accept?
I don't think we have to take any action unless there's an objection to the
Oh.
audit report. Yeah. And Yasmin, I know I emailed you back in December, but I just wanted to say again, congratulations to you and your team. And it's a great comfort to any board to know that the finances are in good shape. So we really appreciate all your hard work and your team as well. Thank you. All right.
I agree.
Yes. Unmodified is what we want. Okay.
I also might just add, you guys have seen it over the years, and some of you guys have been on the board for many years. There are so many more grants, especially with the COVID relief and the ESSER and the ODE and the SIA grants and the high school success grants. It's just it's a tremendous lift, and just recognizing that, and kudos to Yasmin and her team for managing all that. It is definitely a responsibility, and she takes it very seriously.
Thank you. Okay. Next is board policy BBBA, board member qualifications. Entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make.
Somebody.
I move we adopting the BBBA board member qualifications as presented.
Thank you.
I'll
Second. Don, second. Thank you. Rick, motion. And we will, any discussion on this one? Oh, okay. Rebecca?
Yes.
Polly?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. Next is IFE, curriculum guides and course outlines.
I move to adopt policy IFE, curriculum guides and course guidelines.
Thank you, Don. Second.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Polly. Any discussion? I'll go in the same order, so we're all ready. Rebecca?
Yes.
Polly?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. IGAI, human sexuality, AIDS, HIV, sexually transmitted diseases, health education.
I'll do it. I move to adopt the recommended changes as presented to policy IGAI, human sexuality, AIDS, HIV, sexually transmitted diseases, and health education.
Thank you, Polly.
I second that.
Seconded by Nancy. Any discussion? Rebecca?
Yes.
Polly? Nancy?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
I vote yes. Board policy IK, academic achievement. Motion.
I move to adopt the recommended changes as presented to policy IK.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'll second.
Seconded by Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca. Any discussion? Okay, Rebecca,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
I vote yes. Criteria for evaluating the superintendent.
I move to adopt the current superintendent evaluation form D-518 as presented.
Thank you, Sarah.
Second.
Seconded by Rick. Discussion? Okay, Rebecca,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. Moving right
Michael,
along. Yes,
Is this happening next meeting? It's happening soon, isn't it? Evaluation of the superintendent?
it's
Is that-
happening soon.
Yes.
It'll happen either next meeting or the meeting after that.
Okay.
To be determined, but it's soon.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, if there's interest in reevaluating the actual the criteria, that's something that we could definitely look at and undertake. But it's going to require a little bit deeper, possibly some subcommittee type work. So if that's something that interests, I know a couple of you have expressed a desire to look at that. So if that's still an interest, let's keep that on the radar for a little bit later this year, and we can definitely work on that. It's good to do that a little bit later in the school year, but long before the actual evaluation happens. So, yeah.
And we also need to still circle back around to the board superintendent agreement. And I think we sat in on, you and I, and maybe Polly was in on that one too. Maybe it was pre-conference about maybe relooking at goals for the board and simplifying. Got a little granular, and we could maybe zoom out a little. So maybe
Yeah,
as a all-encompassing package.
that'd be a good idea. Yeah, thank you. Great. Remind me. Okay, next is PHS ADA exercise playground.
Oh, I'm doing this one. I move approval of the PHS ADA exercise playground and equipment as presented.
I second that.
Thank you, Sarah and Nancy. Discussion?
Ben? Oh, well, I guess we have to vote.
I have a good feeling about it, Sarah. You want to know when it's happening? No, it's okay. This is a good time. When's it happening, John? Assuming it passes.
Assuming it passes, I will order the equipment, if not tomorrow, Monday. And I've already given them a heads up that it's likely that it will happen. And they're looking into dates, but my goal would be before the end of summer.
You don't already have it added to cart. I mean, all you have to do is push like submit.
All I have to do is email.
Okay, all right.
I have to select a few colors,
Oh,
which
ooh.
I put that out to committee today, actually.
Fun. Good stuff. All right.
Awesome. All right, now we'll vote. Rebecca,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
I vote yes. Let's get it ordered. All right. We have a recess schedule, but we're a little bit ahead of schedule. How does everyone feel about doing the first item in information discussion and then recess after that? Does that work?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So the first item is now the SOESD local service plan. So Brent, I think we'll start with you and then go from there.
Yeah, this is done annually, and we've asked Scott Beveridge, Superintendent of Southern Oregon ESD, to come and share a little bit about the local service plan and some programs that the ESD provides. So I'll just turn it over to you, Scott.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
This works, right?
Yeah.
Good. All right. I brought some information. I'll go through. You don't have to read it all now. Well, thanks for inviting me today. In your packet, can I sit here? So help me. So I put together some information starting with the local service plan itself. So right in the center is the plan that you're considering. I don't know if this was handed out earlier. Everyone probably got a copy of this. So I won't go through it in depth, but I can sure answer questions, and I thought I'd cover some highlights. So the LSP in the beginning, it outlines the background on Southern Oregon ESD, the LSP process and timeline. So page 3 and 4 really talk about why we do this annually, and then gives the timeline for why we're here today. And in 2018, we really built the structure for this plan. We did this very deep dive with business managers, superintendents, directors, IT directors, special ed directors, curriculum directors, to dissect the budget, the staffing, and the services themselves. And we came up with a structure of the plan, and districts made selections. And the structure of the plan is on page 7. It's pretty simple. It's like a page and a quarter. Basically, the state school fund is given to the ESD, and we break it into allocations for districts based on their size. And then the rest of the plan is a list of services. Not everything we do is in here because we add all the time. We just innovated a new cybersecurity program. I think that went in here, but not everything always makes it in here because we're adding as the year goes by. But this is a big list of services. And there's a tremendous number of things that we offer for no charge too, because we go out for competitive grant and we get awards from the state aligned with state initiatives. So in your packet right behind the LSP, this first document is a list of statewide initiatives that are aligned with the ESDs in the state. And you'll see there's only a handful that have the high number that we do because we try to provide a really strong foundation of support aligned with things like early learning, career-connected learning, long-term care and treatment, regional inclusive services for special education, early intervention, and things like that. Now, district choice makes sense, right? Because we have some districts like Pinehurst, 20 students don't have a special ed director, so they rely on us for special education director services. But you have an amazing assistant superintendent providing special education direction. And so you make choices for other things. And we could go through some of those. I'll probably highlight some things that I think are kind of cool. And Superintendent Barry, you might have already done this with the board, I don't know. But almost all districts choose certain things like internet access, use of our data center, career connected learning, sometimes 100%, sometimes close to 100%, and migrant education, English language learner support, and Native American education. So on the left of your packet is some information about migrant education. Kudos on your graduation rates, everybody, and especially for your migrant students. These are just quick little handouts that talk in depth about the program. You might be familiar with it. If not, there's a little bit of background. And I brought you just a little bit of data. We're not going to go through all of it today. Some key highlights here. Going back to 1990 to now, you can see the tremendous growth of the program in Southern Oregon ESD. By the way, we're the top line. So we're the most growth in the state. And then you'll see the numbers for Native American students on the second page. And there's a tremendous number of services that come out of here. What is in this handout here is some of the professional learning, SIOP, GLAD, ELD, constructing meaning that helps educators provide instruction for English language learners, but there's after school programs, there's summer school programs, quite a bit of funding that you may be familiar with, and I could sure answer questions about. What I like about this is that it assesses not only the number of services in this category, but also the feedback from folks that participate in and their feeling on the effectiveness and satisfaction. So other highlights, the Southern Oregon Regional Educator Network and the mentoring program. Kudos again to Phoenix Talent School District. The Education Advancement Council Executive Director, I think, visited Tuesday and got to see the fantastic work that's being done here. So good job. And these past few years, we've added services that were not in 2018. So Student Success Act, and you probably talk about the integrated guidance implementation from ODE. So there is a supplement in the back. That's this Student Success Act comprehensive plan. And on the last page is actually some of the integrated guidance supports. Now in the next set of handouts on the left side of your packet, you should see a handout called SSA or SIA support. And there's a variety of services that we offer there, and I'll just highlight a few that I believe you take advantage of. So Playworks, with their playground equipment, is a program that helps with student behaviors on the playground and coming back, transitioning into the classroom. And I believe at Orchard Hill Elementary, recess staff were all trained in Playworks. I think all schools have had 2 facilitated school leadership meetings to complete their school level needs assessment, and multiple days for 2 weeks. And then next week will be a 3rd week of family engagement facilitated professional learning, on-site facilitated coaching, family engagement assessments completed on all schools, and a debrief facilitated. And you do amazing work with your family engagement. So kudos there too. And I believe we fund your 321 Insight professional learning for IAs. So there's just some highlights of stuff coming out of SSA and the services that you like from that category. Now, professional learning has changed over time. So we don't like teachers to have to leave the classroom. So we've actually changed our model, and you'll see here the web PD. So if you look on, I think it's the 3rd page, you'll see the scope and sequence of courses that we offer. This is actually a little bit old. There's a 3rd series, so there's a 300 level series. These are all online, so folks can take them after work. And I think there's some statistics. Yeah, there's some statistics on the back. And one of the things we like to highlight is that we've integrated this so that the credits for the Web PD actually qualify for the Foundations of School Mental and Behavioral Health micro-credentials at SOU. So that partnership there is one that's helpful because we know that's a focus area. And I want to call out the Web PD topics because these were intentional by design for the things that made sense, right? Adverse childhood experiences or ACEs, building resilience in mental and behavioral health, equity, social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices, and of course, EDL. The other thing we know is important is the workforce pipeline, so educator workforce. This is an innovative program that's not part of the state school funding we receive. We competitively apply for and get $350,000 for the past 3 years. And we apply that towards tuition reimbursement for students, for classified staff, for creating diversity in the workforce. And you'll see some materials here on just the background of it. And then I'll tell you some statistics. 89 candidates in 4 formats, 16 CTE completers, 36 parapros, 34 current teachers with emergency or restricted licenses, right? So we hire folks, they can actually go into the program at SOU. They have 2 tracks, and this is fantastic. They have a 1-year track that's taught during the day. And sometimes folks will enter there and they can get hired with an emergency credential. They then switch to the nighttime program. Takes 2 years then, but they can work during the day. They can take the program at night. And 29 students graduated from the 2-year program this past year are unemployed in the region. So far we have 40 students over at SOU that are either in the 1-year or 2-year program. I anticipate those in the 1-year program are going to switch to the 2-year program because they're going to get hired up pretty fast. I just met with Vance Durrington over at SOU, and this is pre-release, but starting in the fall, they'll have an online option. So it's nice to see some change, some advancement in ways that we can get folks in rural areas, not only after hours, but not necessarily having to drive to Ashland to get this program teacher credential in our backyard. So going forward, I think we're at a pivotal time. I think we've developed some services that are foundational that we've relied on for quite some time. Yes, we've implemented some things that are helpful for new initiatives like SSA and the integrated guidance, but I've asked our board and our district to do strategic planning, just like you're doing. And so I'm hoping that collectively we'll build a common vision. We'll look forward into the future, and we'll design the next set of innovative services so that we are where we want to be in 3 years. And I hope that we also develop some cohesiveness across the region. There is some challenge when districts are picking and choosing the services that they that makes sense for them. It does make sense, like I said, in some cases with Pinehurst or Phoenix Talent needing different things. But I do believe that there's an opportunity to catalyze some collective impact, and I hope that we can do that together. So I look forward to your input during the strategic planning process. Let's design it, the next step. And that's all I prepared, but I can sure answer any questions. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And thank you for coming and sharing this with us. And I do believe we may have some questions. So anybody have questions for Scott?
It's really exciting to hear all the wonderful things that are happening, and that there is an effort to really coordinate this effort to really create a collective impact, because what continues to happen is that there's so many different pieces that it's really hard to create this stronger momentum. I'm new to lots of processes, but how do people get involved in how do people get involved in the strategic planning for SOESD?
So we'll probably have a variety of ways. We're going to probably do one-on-one interview with select people. We probably can't talk to every person,
Right.
but we'll find representatives that I think we'll do one-on-one with. We'll be doing surveys, and we'll probably visit key groups. So we'll probably be with superintendents meetings, we'll be with directors. We'll be getting feedback on what should we keep doing, what should we stop doing, and what should we do better at.
And does this, thank you.
Yeah.
And does that information get shared with community? I mean, like what happens? How do people, how can we get more information to folks that are really impacted by the services that get created, right? So thinking about nothing without us or nothing for us without us. So thinking of that sort of mindset.
Well, I think we'd be synthesizing the data, taking a look at the trends, and then we'd be making decisions together about what that information tells us. So I think it will be very transparent.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
Don?
I have a ton, and I apologize. Some of them have to do with the strategic plan. So I'm assuming during the strategic plan, you will be evaluating the a la carte program and seeing how it's working. I've heard that there's some really big challenges with the a la carte program, such as our CTE. A lot of the schools do the CTE program, and there's not a lot of staffing that program, versus there's some elements of the a la carte that only 1 or 2 districts use. So I was wondering when that's been evaluated and when we can see that change. I understand you're going to do the strategic plan, but that seems like the need is really relevant right now. And I'm not sure how long the strategic plan is going to take for changes. So I guess that's a whole bunch of questions in one question.
Well, let me see if I can answer. Let me see if I can give you a whole bunch of answers, maybe in a simple way, but I don't know. We'll just take them one at a time. There are, I think it's 2 districts that don't use CTE at this time. Pinehurst doesn't because they don't, so there's 3. Pinehurst doesn't have a secondary program. And then there's Medford School District and Central Point School District. My understanding is all of the other districts do. Now, Medford's pretty big, so by percentage, that's a lot. And when Medford stopped using the service in 2018 as part of this plan that was built, we right-sized the program. But I agree that the CTE is part of the 6 initiatives. It's important for engagement. CTE has grown, and so we're reevaluating the CTE program right now to determine if it's right-sized. And I think it needs some more help. So that means that it'll probably be increased in staffing, and we'll have to talk about budget around that. So I think that will happen. In fact, I'm meeting with Brian and Mark, and we're talking about that right now. As far as the strategic plan, I hope to have it in place by fall. I hope that was a lot of answers.
It was. Thank you.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
go ahead. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask. The services that are a few using that aren't that you'd like to have reevaluated, do you want to maybe give those to Superintendent Barry and he can give them to me, or you could tell me what they are?
I think Superintendent Barry knows them. I had just heard from staff that there was some that they, and I don't know how relevant it is. I've heard some staff, and CTE was brought up that there wasn't. Another example that was the mail. A lot of the districts didn't use the mail system, and so that was kind of like, maybe that would be one that could be taken away because that was causing some issues. I don't know. I'm just hearing from staff, and so I'm just trying to educate myself on on what, and that's why I'm hoping that you have a really robust strategic plan to make sure that we're making sure that we're giving the staff the support that is needed in our district, the support that's needed, and our students the support that's needed. Just because I'm hearing like the last 2 years and 3 years have been a challenge already.
Absolutely.
And then with added things, it's been a challenge. And so I just want to make sure that we're really giving, I think the a la carte was a great idea, but I think it's time to reevaluate it and seeing how that works. Especially us being like a middle district, sometimes I feel like we get left out, that, Medford can choose and Grants Pass. And then it's like, we're kind of stuck in the middle. We're not big enough to go out on our own, but we're sometimes needing more support than we're getting. Is how I'm feeling. I could be wrong.
We want you to go support it.
Yeah, and I might just add and clarify a little bit that when 6 years ago, I think when that a la carte menu was being discussed, it was, I'm not sure it was the best idea at the time, but it was the best idea to keep to keep moving forward, really. And there's new leadership in other districts that may be able to reevaluate. And then we've talked about that as superintendents. I've talked to Scott about that, to really kind of hang our hat, ESD hang their hat on a few services, and everybody's going to have to pick and choose some things, but really have those core services. So I will say Teresa Sayer, my predecessor, was not in favor of the a la carte system. And because what it has done is it's spread people out, and now there's a lot of thinness rather than kind of some depth. So just wanted to share that.
I'll just keep on going until you guys stop me. My other thing is, it's just a suggestion on reaching out yearly and evaluating. Is that something that you're doing? You are reaching out yearly on it and evaluating the program with staff?
So I think that we can do a more in-depth job reaching out to do a process similar to like we did in 2018. After we went through such a thorough process in 2018, when we revisited in 2019, the process we use is that I run the plan by superintendents. We ask if there's any changes that want to be made, and our business manager meets with the business managers one-on-one, and they make the service selections. They either confirm or they change the things that they need. Now, we rely on the districts to work within their cabinets to decide, go to the IT department, go to the curriculum department, go to the special ed. Special ed is actually turned in every year. We do ask every year for the other programs, but some of those programs are 3-year rolling commitments. So that's the process we've used, but I think that we would probably benefit from a more in-depth process at this point because some time's gone by.
Thank you. Just a few more questions. Do you guys have sorry, I have a lot of questions. Do you guys have standards like we do for Division 22?
We do not. Division 22 requirements do not apply.
But there's no alternative requirements either.
We have a lot. Yeah, sure. We have a lot of requirements, a lot of OARs, a lot of ORS that apply.
Okay.
Just Division 22, we have provided some services that help districts meet Division 22 requirements, but we don't do some of the Division 22 reporting the school districts do.
Next is, on your superintendent evaluations, I'm assuming you get a superintendent evaluation too. Is there a spot for peer review, such as superintendents in other districts and COSA and OSBA and partners? Do you have that in your evaluation? I was just curious, since we had just done ours.
No, I do a goal setting process. It sounds like you do a goal setting process, but I don't have a peer review as part of the evaluation.
And I have like 2 more questions,
Okay.
I think. And then do you go, I often am at OSBA doing statewide things, as you know, and I also hear about, our ESD developed this new program and our ESD developed this new program. So one, I don't know if that's a communication thing, but I haven't heard of a lot of the new programs coming out. And do you collaborate with other districts and talk about their programs and think about what would be good in our region?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's OASD conferences. There's one at November. It's actually a pre-conference with the OSBA conference. I think it's November 10th and 11th, if I have the dates right. So that's one time. There's a BEM conference. And I was just in a governance council meeting this morning. Pretty familiar with all of the local service plans of the other ESDs. There may be some things, if you're interested in something that's happening somewhere else, we may be doing it and maybe it's not communicated well. And it may be something that would be really wonderful to do. I do have one that I think is probably on the radar, and that is for behavioral support for school districts. And one of the models that I think that we could implement together, but it's going to require a lot of partnership because it's going to need to happen on campus. It's going to need to happen in each school. There's going to need to be space, but behavior support is one, and I think Douglas ESD has a pretty good model. And Allison Hinson no longer works there, but she's ready and willing to help us build that model. But it's going to take partnership with districts, and it takes some money.
I think that's an important one. Thank you for mentioning
You're
that.
welcome.
And since we're on about behavior supports, I looked at your supports for like special education, and a lot of them seemed like they were site-based, like the STEPS class. And I was wondering if you guys have talked about moving more the inclusion route and how you support districts that are choosing to do more inclusion versus sending kids out to programs.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have, like, if you want to just think about one of our programs, our deaf and hard of hearing program, we have about 30 different interpreters, but we only actually have 3 site-based classrooms. So it's a resource room. It's not a self-contained classroom at all. It's at May Richardson. We have 1 resource room in Scenic, and then we have 1 at Crater High. DH families, families with students experiencing hearing impairment will often attend those schools so that they can get the resources that are in those classrooms. But if you think about the bulk of interpreters and itinerant teachers that we have, they're out serving students in the mainstream classroom. So high school students going to class along with their interpreter in the classroom. The self-contained classrooms that we do have, so STEPS Plus and Transition. STEPS Plus is only about 30 students. It's only at Howard and Crater. And then that's STEPS Care, so medically fragile students. It's on campus, so we try to integrate as much as we can, but those students need a lot of support that they get in the specialized environment. And then STEPS Plus is low cognition, high behavior classroom, and the absolute intent of that program is to graduate students back to the school. So we have a step up program. So when students are in and they can handle more time, then we increase the amount of time that they're in class, and then we graduate and put on the wall, and we celebrate when they can return to campus. So most of our work is done by itinerants, teaching Braille on campus, orientation mobility in the community, variety of supports, not much self-contained. So we do when a student's needs mean that that's the way that we can support them, and then we're always moving back to the classroom.
Thank you. I'm glad that you're doing that. I think I only have 2 more questions.
Okay.
One is Sarah and I just did the legislative summit, and a lot of ESDs are real. I've heard after we had the breakdowns of whatever region was doing, are really active in legislation policy, and I was wondering if I'm just missing the activity of ESD with legislation policy, or is that what's going on with that? Sorry.
Well, no, I'd be happy to tell you what's going on with it. So usually what happens is I call a summit of superintendents with legislators, and that's the way it's gone every long session. When you announced at the regional meeting that you wanted to hold what you did, I stood back and let that happen. By the way, fantastic. It was really amazing. I mean, students serving food, students playing, it was just, we would not have been able to do what you did. So I love that model, and I'd love to partner with you to do that in the future. So that's why you did it and I didn't do it this time. Now, I admit during the last 2 years, we didn't do it at all because things were kind of a mess, and the legislature was kind of a mess too. It was all online. You couldn't actually get in them. So that didn't happen during that session, but I could send Superintendent Barry the agenda from the session prior because that's the way we used to do it. And my predecessor used to do it that way too. So we're also very involved in legislation. I've already prepared the agenda for the bi-weekly calls that that we're going to have with legislators so that they can ask us questions about pending legislation, just so we can inform them what that legislation would mean, if it were to move forward or not. So I think I've got, gosh, I don't know, Superintendent, what is it? Probably 25 bills set up on an agenda ready for Tuesday, so that we can ask them if these bills are going to be moving forward. They can ask us what the impact would be on students and families. We also coordinate through COSA, OASD, OSBA. It's a big collective effort. So that's probably happening behind the scenes, and it did happen with superintendents in the past. So the board may not have known about it. You organizing it for the first time was fantastic, and I'd love to do that with you in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I just heard that they are like, I just think up north sometimes maybe they just do a lot more in their system or whatever, because they're right there next to Salem.
So before 2020, when basically the Capitol shut down, we used to go up for legislative days and we would organize that. And so we would take superintendents up either as a group. Now we'd usually have to meet in the library across the street. And then we would basically organize the topics that we felt were important to talk about. We'd usually hand those out, and then we'd go around the Capitol with actually a plan for who would meet who in whose office. So I think we'll be able to do that again. I think COSA is just putting together those legislative days on the agenda right now. I think there's construction at the Capitol, so it's going to be a little interesting.
Oh yeah, I totally understand. They're discouraging large groups. I was just wondering what your plan had been. Yeah. And my last question, I really apologize, is I see on your service plan, it's kind of a quick change around to have these meetings and then vote on the service plan.
Sure.
And I was wondering if that was maybe something you guys could review, if there was, we get questions and then we all, if there's changes, it seems like there's not a lot of time but maybe that's what the strategic plan will do, a lot of changes. I was just kind of concerned about if there was changes need to be made. It's a very quick turnaround. But maybe I'm wrong on the timeline.
Ask me that again. I'm not sure. Are you saying that the timeline leading up to today, or are you saying that the strategic plan in the future would?
Well, I'm wondering if you're planning to change the timeline when you do your strategic plan, because right now, when I don't have it in front of me, I can find it. It said something like you handed the plan to the superintendents in December, I believe. Mm-hmm. The boards were getting the plan in January. Mm-hmm. Then we could have discussion like at this meeting, mm-hmm. and then you vote on it, and it has to be voted by March. That seems like a pretty tight thing. If there's things that need to be changed, or we have questions and want to have discussion, it seems like there's not a lot of time for input and change. And so I was wondering about that.
If we backwards design the process to be done by March 1st, we like to give this to you as early as we can in January. So you have January and February to consider it. But we assume that we have aligned it with superintendents prior. So I'm bringing it in the fall, and it's not till we're talking about it. And then in December, I'm looking for a thumbs up. They don't vote on it, right? You vote on it. So I'm looking for a calibration that what we have makes sense. So by the time it gets to you, I'm hoping that we're not going through a process of redesigning the service plan. I'm hoping that would have already been done. Now, the service plan itself is a structure, right? So page 7 just talks about your ability to choose the services. The services can change all the time. So we add services throughout the year. Cybersecurity is the new one that we added. It actually made it into the plan because of the timing. But we'll add something in 2 months if it makes sense. We added classified subs after we only did licensed subs. We didn't wait for a year for the local service plan to put it in the plan, right? As soon as we were ready to roll out adding classified subs, we do it, we let districts know. So I don't think there's any reason why if we get feedback on different sets of services that we wouldn't just immediately be implementing them in the fall.
That's good to hear. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm sure the people might have questions,
Sure.
but thank you so much for being patient with all my questions. I apologize.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I get a little too much in the weeds.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
So one is, I think this is fantastic. And one of the things that the teacher recruitment Is it newer?
It's in its third year,
Okay.
but it takes a while to get cohorts and to get folks to know to sign up so that we can pay them for their tuition. So it's gaining speed.
So I'm thrilled to see this because I've been wondering what's happening for those who are interested in entering the profession, because we've seen a lower amount. It's been a struggle to staff schools. And so I'm excited to see that this opportunity is available. So thank you for that. And I wondered, is anyone in Phoenix Talent taking, that might be a nuts and bolts question, not for you, but is anyone in our district taking advantage of this particular program? Okay. Oh, okay.
I think you bring up a good point on that too, is really kind of what we're talking about, is making sure we marry all of our systems, because we have recruit and retain grants. Also working with, and I know you met with SOU, we're meeting with SOU tomorrow, really making sure it fits for our staff and being creative about how can we continue to have an IA serve for us and then get their credentials and certification. So I think that discussion needs to be cleaner.
There's probably not enough money to fund everyone that we could put through the system. So I think figuring out how to synergize.
Leverage funds for sure.
And then, if I remember correctly, previous local service plans included library collections that moved through different schools.
Oh, yes, textbook adoption roadshows.
Well, no, I was thinking more, and maybe I was misunderstanding it, more like media center collection type of things. So you could have a different, more books, different books rotating through schools. Not textbooks necessarily, but more like where we're sitting here, like there would be collections that moved through elementary schools or middle schools or high schools to offer that. And tagline on that, as you talked about helping districts meet Division 22 standards, one of those was that a librarian, I'm looking at Tiffany because we had this conversation for a word meeting. One of the challenges I think in our district and other districts is having a licensed librarian district-wide to help approve collections. So is that something that, because every school needs to meet that Division 22 standard, is that something that an ESD could provide regionally so that we could all meet that?
So I think the answer is yes, we can provide. Yes, that's something an ESD can provide. And I think, yes, that's something we provided in the past. But given the national teacher shortage and the librarian shortage, we were not able to continue recruiting a librarian, just like you were not able to. So unfortunately, with that position empty, we weren't able to provide that service anymore.
Does this program support someone becoming a librarian?
It could potentially bring someone. I'd have to look if we could put someone on an emergency license and consider that. That's a fantastic idea. Good thinking.
Great stuff. And by the way, I don't want to call you out, but I don't want to hear a board member apologize for asking questions again, because we're here doing important work for kids and staff in our community. And if you have questions, you should ask them. So I appreciate it, because I learned a lot through this process, and I've been on boards for a lot of years, and there's still things I don't understand, Scott, about how ESDs function. So thank you. I just had, I think it's great, to do the strategic planning, and, the service plan has to be approved by us, and getting feedback from superintendents. My question is, if a staff member who is getting services, a staff member of our district is, working with your staff each day, and something's not going great, what avenues do they have to get support, or to reach out and say, hey, we need this isn't working, we need some more support? What's the best way for them to go about sharing that?
That's fantastic. So we usually do, so I want to answer your question first and I'll talk about some other things. So just like you would probably have a complaint process and you would go to the supervisor and then the supervisor would go to the, that's probably what I would recommend. Start with the least, lowest level and then move up. So if it's an assistant superintendent, you probably want to talk to the superintendent. If it's staff, then they'll probably talk to my special ed director. Seems to make sense. We also, like you saw with the migrant program, there are feedback mechanisms for the services that we provide. And my understanding is that some of those might have fallen away last year because I asked for the feedback mechanism for special education recently, and I found out that I didn't have it. So that would be a second mechanism that we usually have. And we usually share at the Regional Inclusive Services quarterly meeting exactly what those survey results are. So we're very transparent with the results and evaluation of the program.
I think that's great because, you know, it's just everyone's busy.
Yep.
And so if a staff member can reach out and get support and improvement directly and quickly, I think that's super, super important. Yeah. And then as far as, you know, you mentioned some things that we're able to get into the service plan and provide services. How does that work? Because, you know, is that something that if superintendents got together and say, hey, we really need this service and it's outside of our normal cycle of approving plans and strategic plans and all those things, is that something you have the latitude to do, to adopt new services within the span of a shorter time frame? Okay.
Yep. It takes collectively that we have to decide that enough people want it so that we can build a model for it. It doesn't have to align with the December, January, February, March timeline. We spin up services whenever they're necessary. So I mentioned the adding classified subs. The cybersecurity just happened to be a pilot that we were running. And so it was a wonderful time to bring in and talk about the budget for that during the LSP process. But we can add services at any time.
That's great. I think, you know, more than ever, things move really quickly and education is in such a state of flux. And it's a good time to re-examine how we do things and move quickly in service of kids. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming today and for sharing everything. And we really appreciate it. Were there any more questions? And we're not going to apologize if there are. Okay.
Can I give you a second?
Please. Yeah, thank you.
How do services get developed? We actually have a mechanism for that we like to use. And that's when you have like your IT managers that are talking about a problem and they think that they can solve it together and they see a service that they need. The mechanism we use is our IT manager would then bring that to the superintendent's group. But we also love to bring a champion in a district. The data center model that we built, I recommended cutting $400,000 worth of services that were not best to be utilized at that point. And at the same time, we recommended implementing $700,000 worth of services. And they made so much sense that folks voted for those. One of them was we cut our old distance learning program because Zoom basically took over and the old systems that we used to use didn't make sense anymore. And we built the Zoom room model. That's just one example. Online learning was another one that we did. It was a great program. Kids did very well in it, but districts eventually took that on themselves. So it didn't make sense for us to do it. The data center was a huge one. And actually Phoenix Talent was the proof of concept for that. So we piloted that and we were able to show the cost savings. And then we extrapolated that on a big district like Medford School District. And then we actually, it was Tom Bigboy at that time, came in and joined and could talk about how this was a real cost savings. It was a real valuable service. I think we got 90-ish% adoption. Pinehurst, no, they don't have a need for the data center. And one school district had just gone to bond to build the data. Back then we were building data centers in school districts. And eventually the internet connection got so strong that we could consolidate the data center and get cost savings on buying basically huge capacities. But they had just gone to bond and it didn't make sense once they had bonded that equipment to move for a few years. So you know, that's an example of how that, so curriculum directors if we want to do something special ed directors.
Yeah.
They're often the experts that can decide what the best model would look like. And then we need to put a budget around it, staffing model.
That's great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna take a 10-minute recess and be back at 7:34. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank All right, are we back? Back. Excellent. The next up is facilities and bond update. John?
Good evening. I have a few things to talk about. First of all, I wanted to do a little shout out to my guys. On Thursday, January 26th, you may have heard we had a humongous water leak in the culinary kitchen, and the entire school was evacuated because it set off the fire system too. I got the call at about 11:15, and I called my guys. I was actually out sick. Called my guys and said all hands on deck, and the entire team ran down there. They were down there within 2 minutes. We got the water shut off and found the problem. It was a electronic valve on the roof that had actually broke. It had failed, which made the pipe flood with water. It froze. It broke. We had a large amount of water. So they couldn't use the kitchen the rest of that day, Thursday, and they couldn't use it Friday. By Monday, we had it all put together. So we only lost a day and a half of instruction in the kitchen. And that's all thanks to my guys. They really responded and they did a great job, and I'm proud of them. We submitted the grant concept paper for the Renew America School grant on January 16th. The grant ask was approximately $1.8 million, which would be used to change windows, add roof insulation at TES, and new roof insulation for TMS for added energy savings. If we're selected to move forward, the Energy Trust will help us with the application, which is due April 15th. I have high hopes for that grant because it's brand new. This is the first round ever, and it was very short notice, and most people didn't even know about the concept letter. I happen to be on another team, and a grant writer mentioned it. The grant that you approved that we're submitting next week, or actually on the 15th is when it's due. The next board meeting was the 16th. That's why we had to rush it in this time. So I appreciate that. That one is actually for solar panels. We've decided to just focus on TMS at this point because it's only $1 million grant. Louder, sorry. So thanks to you guys, we'll get that submitted and then hopefully find out soon. We plan to add just some upcoming dates for you guys. Plan to advertise for architectural services for TES and TMS seismic renovations on February 10th. We will have a candidate and contract to present to the board on April 6th. We plan to advertise an RFP for civil engineer to design the site plan for Culver Sports Park on February 17th and bring it to the board to consider on April 6th to begin that process. Now that the CMGC is approved, we plan to advertise for that February 24th and have a recommendation for the board to approve that contract on April 20th. So lots of design work and lots of decisions coming up, and I'm looking forward to finding out who our new partners are.
That's great, John. It's such an interesting dichotomy too, dealing with the flood immediately and all this other stuff going on that requires a lot more planning and time, and good job security for you. So we appreciate it very much. Thank you. Any questions for John?
John, you said the design for the Culver Field is coming up April 6th. Is that right for our board meeting?
To get the a civil engineer under contract to start working with the group.
To start working. Okay,
So
perfect.
we'll
Because I
follow
thought May was the next meeting and that timeline for the group. I saw an invitation go out for the May, and I thought, oh my goodness, if we're already looking at designs before the group meets again, we're kind of in trouble. But now I understand what you meant.
For those of you that have been part of the CMGC process, and it's a little bit different for architect and engineer, but we do the same process. So we'll advertise it. They'll put in a package telling us all of their the projects they've done that are similar, basically a package, and then we great that we'll actually create a committee, probably based from the group that we met with on Tuesday, and along with a board member and stuff. Then we will interview them if that's necessary. I mean, if one company just blows everybody away and we think we don't have any questions, we don't have to, but we did include a date for that. And then once they're signed under contract, we'll meet with that group. They're going to actually meet with each individual or interested parties. So they'll meet with the neighbors. They're going to meet with baseball, softball, Little League, ODP, and find out what their dreams are, and then try to make a realistic plan that accomplishes as much as we can. So it'd be very much just like the high school. And then that is really, it's just going to give us a site plan, this part. Like a Boys and Girls Club and ODP, that would be another process, like a CMGC, where we would follow that same process.
Thank you for that clarification.
Great. Anything else for John?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank your team for us on that flood. That was huge.
Hey, John, was there any water damage? Do we have to submit an insurance claim? Because water damage is pretty quick. I mean, right?
Not significant, because we reacted so quickly. We lost, I think, 15 ceiling tiles and a little bit of insulation. We had tiles there the next day, and insulation replaced Monday morning, and the tiles were up. So the actual amount of damage was significantly less than our part of it would have been.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, and maybe a good transition. Financial update. Oh, did you have something else? Sorry, I looked down. Oh, giving it to Yasmin. Okay, so it is still a transition to the financial update. Yasmin?
Good evening, board. So to note on the financial report, a few highlights. I went ahead and changed the projections for this year based on what we have, the information that we have right now. So our estimated ending fund balance right now is at 9.1 million. And this is including the monies from the HB 4026 grant, the ADN security grant. If you look at the report, something to note, for example, the state school fund, we received 725,000 less than this time of year last year from July to December. The total revenues are also 177,000 less than the year before at this time of year in December. If you compare that with expenditures, we are estimating right now, if you look at the difference on expenditures, it's about $1 million more that we spent this year in comparison to last year's through December. In March, we will have a new estimate for the state school fund for this year, so we'll be able to have better numbers with the high cost disability. The second page on the report, just to note the balance that we have on the capital projects fund for the bond through December is 4,866,000. As you can see, it hasn't really moved much from the beginning of the year, but at least, you know, we are able to have the full amount on the LGIP account right now, the investment account. And right now that account is earning a 3.75% interest. So that's really good for our funds for the bond. Construction excise tax, just to note, the balance through December is 266,000. And on the last page, you'll see the detail of the ESSER expenditures, ESSER 3. So the year-to-date expenditures for ESSER 2 through December is $1,025,000. And so far through December, the estimated ending fund balance for ESSER 2 or the estimated grant balance is for $4,000. For ESSER 3, they so far is 322,000. And the estimated ending balance that we have for ESSER 3 is pretty high, but we already have some plans to spend those monies. Of course, maybe, I don't know if it's a full amount, but a pretty good plan to spend them. So wait, that's it for me. Do you have any questions?
Where's the playground? The playground that we just said yes to is coming out as one of these funds, isn't it? Is it already?
It will be out of ESSER 3, but since this report is just a year to date through December, it doesn't really reflect that yet. It's not in the books yet.
So out of the 7,784, it would come
out of there.
The million or so that we just said, yes, please buy playground. Yeah. And then I had the property tax. So we've been collecting more in property tax than we anticipated. Is that right? The way I'm looking at this?
Yes, so it's going to be about 300,000 more, if I'm not mistaken, 200,000 more. So based on our projections and the levy letter that we received in October, it's going to be a little bit higher, which is great. You know, since it was a lot lower the year before, we were really affected by the Almira fire. So progressively, we receive about a 4% more every year. So that was the first year that I've seen since I started working for the district that we actually received these monies. So.
And that helps us pay our bond back faster?
So the projection on this sheet is only for the general fund, which is just the operating fund. The one for the debt service, we do get those monies at the same time, but I automatically deposit that money to be able to fulfill our debt service obligations. So we usually have an interest payment in December, and then a second interest payment in June, and the principal. And by then, we have enough monies in the account to make the payment.
Okay.
I want to point out, and Yasmin pointed this out as well. So that ending fund balance projection of 9.1, both of the last year's ADM security money and this year's ADM security money is in that projection, because we didn't get 21, 22 ADM money until this financial year. And so that $6.7 million, if we didn't have that support from the legislature, it would take our ending fund balance down to 2.4 if we didn't get that support, which would be 3-4% with some escalating costs, which would be pretty dire. So when you see that number, a lot of that is that ADM security.
Yes, and something to note too, I wrote it down in a note 1. As you can see, actually note 2, where I separate out the ADM security grant for 21-22 that Brent was talking about, and the allocation for the current year, which we haven't received word from the ODE when we're gonna be able to access those monies. So just something to remember for at the end of the year, if we haven't received the grant, then our ending fund balance will be about 4.8 million instead of 9.1 that is estimated right now.
That's 22-23.
Yes, it will be the ADM security for this year. So we don't have the allocation yet.
We don't. Okay.
We don't have the allocation. We don't have a confirmation of when we need to spend the money. So our fear is that we'll get the allocation in February and say you have till July 30th to spend the money. I don't think they'll do that, but we'll see.
How can we get that answered? Who do we need to get on the horn with over at ODE?
We've tried a lot. So
okay.
We've been trying hard.
Let us know if you want to put 7 more people on the phone call tree.
Sounds good.
Okay.
We might have somebody up there right now that's advocating.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good idea. That maybe that's a better idea. All right. Any questions for Yasmin?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay. And on that note, wow, we got good transitions today. Legislative OSBA update.
almost always prefer to defer to you first on this one. I don't know why, but.
Well, I apologize. I don't have notes. I'm gonna have to go from my mind, but Sarah and I have been taking turns sending out emails to everyone to kind of keep them updated on what's going on. I don't remember what time this weekend. I believe Saturday, Senator Merkley will be in Grants Pass. We can send that out. And I was at, not last weekend, but the weekend before, I had OSBA Finance, OSBA Board of Directors, and Rural School Committee. So if you have any questions about that, one of the things at OSBA they talked about was there was a conference, and I kind of like this phrase. It was accountability for all students to make sure that we're actually being accountable for the students, that they don't have to show accountability to us, but we do to them. And so I thought that was a nice way to reword that, because sometimes when people hear equity, they kind of, their mind goes off. But when you're like, we want to be accountable for every single student in our building to make sure they're successful. I thought that was a nice way of saying that. Rural schools, we're going to do subcommittees, and pretty soon we'll be asking more to join, and hopefully by September, October, it will come. We have a year to get everything together, which ends in like June or July, and then we'll bring that out to the vote to all the school districts to see about rural schools. Another committee is starting to form. So once you have a committee, then you become a caucus after a year. Another committee, the first step is a board member brings it ahead. They get consensus to continue, and then it's voted by the board and then moves on. And the next one is LTBGQ committee as well. So I'll keep you updated on how that goes. And then the rural schools one has some really good ideas. So I'm really excited to move forward and get we have to get goals and missions and all that, to me, boring stuff in the place before we can start moving into the actions and the great ideas. But if you ever have any questions about legislation, you can ask me or Sarah. And I don't know if you want to add anything else, or Brent, he's very informed as well.
Just going to say that the Jeff Merkley, I pulled up your email, the Jeff Merkley Town Hall is Sunday at 1 at Lone Pine Elementary. So it's pretty close. So if anyone's interested in connecting with Senator Merkley, this is the weekend to do that. And it was exciting. Dawn and I are also sitting in on an OSBA legislative update each Friday. And this last one was just kind of getting going and talking about different, so testifying, and OSBA has been doing their work to chase down and advocate for overall education bills. And it was exciting and a little overwhelming to see the budget come out this week, but exciting to see where the starting number had moved up. So just trying to understand maybe a little bit about what the carve outs mean from Brent's email from COSA. Anyway, so that's, yeah, so keep an eye out. Dawn and I are trying to send out that email each weekend of what is coming before each education committee the next week. So trying to bite it down into weekly bite-size pieces to look ahead for those opportunities.
I'm just going to add one more thing. One of my concerns is when I have been reading through the policies, my mind goes cha-ching, cha-ching. There's like a lot of policies that say funding, questionable, or, at this time undetermined. And it's like, I already know it's determined. I mean, you can just tell by what the policy reads and what is wanting from districts, and can be kind of expensive. And so that's one of my concerns, is if we don't get the number up and there's a whole bunch of policies that pass that's going to cost a lot of money, that we're going to be really, really difficult times. And to kind of just let the legislators know, like, you're already cutting us and now you're going to add more policies, more mandates for us to follow that's costing more money, and not giving us any more money. It becomes a really difficult challenge and we're going to have to make difficult choices. So that's one of my fears of this session.
Yeah, one of the things that we have tasked our legislative advocate with is oppose unfunded mandates. If the mandate is not funded, we have to oppose it because the money's got to come from somewhere. And we already have so many tough choices, like you said, Dawn, that we have to make. And so that's one of the things that we have put forth as to advocate for is, it's almost the first criteria we evaluate. Is this law that's being proposed, is it funded? If not, then we have to oppose it. Or we have to find out what the funding mechanism looks like.
That's what I was gonna say, because even if it's funded and it's going to the school fund and they drop the school fund, it's not really funded.
Right. Exactly. Well, thank you for all the good work that you're doing. And Brent, I know this is a big lift for you too. And I'm sure I hope you're all getting the emails. So, that's no requirement. There's a lot of people working on this, but if you see something come through that catches your eye that you have a question about, or reach out to Dawn or Sarah. They're a great resource. And Brent is available, but I am trying to protect him a little bit from his super busy schedule managing all these bills. So that's great. Okay. Anything else on legislative OSBA? Okay. EDI, we have a report from the committee. Great. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to give you a couple of updates on some cool things. You already heard a little bit from our fellow administrators that we had a wonderful turnout at the Taking It Up training. It's a 2-day training based in a lot of the practices that are for the same organization, Coaching for Educational Equity, that does a more intense institute. This is a low 2-day training or being. I'm really proud at the turnout from Phoenix Talent. We have by far the most participants in the regional participation. And all of those folks are we threw out for who might be interested in voluntary. Sorry, it's been a long day. Voluntary. And just really a wonderful, diverse group of people that want to be there. And as you know, that's the right kind of group to have at a professional development like that. And we will also send 4 people, I believe, to the 4-day summer institute with Coaching for Educational Equity, which is really powerful too. And again, it'll be building capacity, additional, that the capacity building is really important. Brianna and another student, Ava, joined our EDI committee this last month. And we also had Garrett, the son of a participant, who was also an active participant this last month. And it just was a really lovely, and Nancy might want to speak to that too. Our EDI advisory meeting is really, I'd love to have 100% participation there. We haven't yet had a meeting where we can get everyone there, but it's a really thoughtful opportunity for us to get together and talk about various opinions and what's good for kids. We're making really good progress. I hope that after this next meeting, we will have some revisions to bring to you on that equity policy. Our next piece will be diving in. We'll be sharing, like we shared with you at the work session, the climate data. We'll be sharing that with our advisory committee and kind of looking for those pockets of where we need more information. That's one way that we make decisions about getting into listening sessions, is what we notice on those climate surveys and where we might need to dig in and have some more interviews and opportunities with people. A couple other really quick things, with our new school-based mental health grant, we're adding a community care specialist. And so much so that we need to come back for a second round. So we're really excited about that opportunity and hope we can have somebody selected in the next week to 2 weeks. Our community care team has set a health and wellness fair where we'll be inviting community organizations to come share their resources with our community, April 15th. You don't have to put that on your calendar yet, but put it on your radar. We have a $2,000 grant from Lions for Life that will be given to support suicide prevention at Phoenix High School, and a student-driven initiative on what they would like to see as an opportunity to spread awareness, education, prevention. That'll be a great opportunity. The community at Phoenix High School is very energetic about communication stuff like that. I think that those are my big updates for tonight. We have been doing lots of things, and it's really exciting to see it coming together. Would you like to add anything?
Thank you so much.
The only thing I would like to add is board engagement and involvement in EDI efforts, EDI justice and belonging efforts. I know that I've been involved, but thinking of like how we can get education. It's really hard to make decisions. And I was thinking of the presentation from SOESD, and there's so many great things, but it's really hard for me to like figure out what questions I have because it's a process that I'm very unfamiliar with. So in order for us to be better advocates, to look at things in a more thoughtful, educated way, we need to get informed. And I'd love for us to be more involved through training, conversations, engagement. And I know that that has not been much of what we've done as a board. I mean, I've only been here for 2.5 years, but I'd love for us to be a lot more engaged rather than just having like conversations coming at us, but more engagement and thoughtful internal processing. Although I do understand that this is it's difficult work. It's difficult work for a lot of different reasons because it's a lot of internal work that we have to do. It's really checking like our fragilities. I am constantly faced with having conversations with people, and I just can read people's faces when I mention things, and like there's this fear of, oh my gosh, why is Nancy talking to me? Why is she telling me certain things? And I just want people to know that it's not from a place of shame. It's really like we all have areas of improvement. I have so many areas of improvement, but I think it'd be really wonderful, and we would be a more when we're better informed, we can make better decisions, right? So I'd love for us to be more engaged rather than just like passive information coming our way.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Anything else? All right. Next item is filing date for board members. So that starts February 4th. Starts on a Saturday. That's interesting. I had to go to the website and double check that was true, and it is. So there you go. So we have 3 board positions up for re-election. Any questions on the filing date? So that begins February 4th, and you have until March 16th. Dawn, Rick, and Rebecca. Any questions? Okay. Look forward to seeing all of your applications in on the 4th. No pressure. Okay. The next one is renewal of teachers and administrators contracts. Brent?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Campbell. Typically, we don't give you a list at this time to review, but we'll try to get you a list when we send out the package. That it's continuously changing. We sometimes have some last minute retirements and some other decisions that are being made. So, but we'll get you a list for renewals for next board meeting, and then that'll be for action because we're required to notice our staff by March 15th. And there may be a situation where we do have to wait a little longer. We do have a board meeting in early March. We may have to push that back to action, but we'll work with our team to see if we have an accurate list for renewal.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions on that topic? Okay. All right. 21-22 graduation rates. Mr. Barry? Yeah, drop the mic. You deserve it.
No, not me. Everybody that just left and that are still here.
Yes.
But Yeah, I mean, it really, shows just, we were talking the other day about, belonging and connections. And when we're receiving feedback from our affinity groups and they share that they do have, mostly have a connected adult that they have at school. And it shows the belonging, it shows the systems that we put in place. It shows the resilience and the perseverance of our students and our staff and our families. I think the subgroup data is amazing. Mr. Beveridge, Superintendent Beveridge mentioned our migrant ed graduation rate, again at 100%. Another celebration that we can bring our migrant ed pack and those families in, because that's a huge accomplishment. And I think replicating that in different arenas is wise, because our migrant ed pack make decisions on programming for their kids that keep them engaged to hit that graduation mark. So it's more good news for Phoenix Talent School Districts, and our partners at ATI are making some progress as well. I mean, 5 years ago when we were doing that renewal, that was a big discussion amongst this board, and we've worked out a contract. We are working at meeting next week to start that renewal contract as well, to put some markers in place that are, continue that upward trend. But just amazing job by the staff, and just really the effort goes to the students as well to persevere and not give up.
Brent, you mentioned ATI. I noticed that it wasn't on this chart, but some of the other charter schools in our region are, or am I missing it?
Our ATI is on our.
Oh, okay, that's bad. All totals is what I saw. So my bad. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, Brent, to you and to all the staff and our students and their guardians. It's another impressive and important thing. It's just one measure, but it's a really, really big one. And it's nice to see us at the top of this list too, not gonna lie. So, and wow, tremendous growth at ATI too. That's incredible. So really good all the way around. Any questions or comments on graduation? All right. Speaks for itself, I think. All right. Next, we have some policies that will come for action at the next meeting. So the first is BCF, advisory committees to the board. Any questions or comments on that one? Did I miss something?
I think we have a couple other ones. Don't I have that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry, Rick.
On BCF.
Is this?
Well, we have a policy, and within the policy, it mentions a committee, and it just seems, which makes this committee part of the policy as I read it. Is this something? I'm not saying it's a bad committee or anything, but it just really don't like to see a committee mentioned within the policy. What if you wish to remove that? Then you have to amend the policy, change the policy.
Yeah, and that's a good catch, Rick. And I do think there's a note in there that I just noticed that says administration is recommending not adopting the optional green language at this time.
Oh, okay.
So that is optional, and it is admin is recommending not adopting that. Probably for that. Do you want to speak to that, Fran?
Yeah. Well, basically for Director Nagel's input there, just because we do a lot of this anyway, but we don't want to continue to change that. So it is optional. We typically look at that, and if we don't need it, we do not add it. So, but yeah, good catch.
Okay.
Sorry, just for clarification, it's optional only until 2025, right? Because in 2025, September 15th, it becomes part of the policy, no matter what the size of your school district.
I know that the equity
Is that right?
advisory committee is required, but I don't know if it existing in this policy is part of that or not.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah,
All right.
yeah, that's a good point.
Thank
though.
you though for clarifying. that. I
Yeah.
appreciate
We'll try to get some clarification on that. Yeah, I mean, I imagine it'll have to live somewhere, so maybe this will be where it lives. Yeah.
Yeah, so we do you guys have hard copies of the agenda at all? Or are you guys all on the electronic version?
Everyone, I think Rick's got a hard copy.
I got a hard copy.
Because you, the hard copy, which was noticed, has a 9 and a 10 as SRO and Marshall program and 10 as Tura discussion. And it looks like it. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so we will go back to follow the noticed agenda and we'll go to J9 tour discussion.
We're on Tura. Okay. So maybe this is a discussion for Dawn. I know she attended the meeting. We discussed about sending notice in about our thoughts about making sure that doesn't impact us long term if the state school fund is modified. But I think, Dawn, you had a few questions in that meeting too. Or, yeah, sorry.
I did, and Sarah went to one of the meetings as well. So when I went, it was just Yasmin, somebody from the library, and the city manager. And it was supposed to be like all these partnerships, but it was only us. And I had a ton of questions, of course. So I asked a ton of questions. So at the beginning, I mean, my main concerns were our partnerships with the fire department and the police department and how that funding would be could cause changes. She couldn't speak about that with the fire department, and the fire department wasn't there, but she did mention it would only make us down one police officer. And so when I started listing off my concerns of what one police officer means in the city of Talent, you're one down and then one sick pretty soon. That means not as much patrols around school and SROs and all of that. And then she backtracked and said, well, we would, the police officer would be the last. We would go for equipment and other items before we went down a person. So that kind of was a little bit of a concern to me as well. I also mentioned what we had talked about in our work session, that we were concerned that spending could change in the next year. She was like, really? And I said, well, we don't know what the next 17 years is going to look like. There's currently a piece of legislation that's asking for ODE to no longer exist. And so, when there's policies like that out, it makes you nervous on what other policies are going to follow, right? If you get rid of ODE, does funding change as well? So she said that we could possibly put something in there if that had happened. My last concern is and I don't have it in front of me, I apologize. There was 3 concerns that the county had, and one of them was them being prepared for the bond and for all the things that are coming. And that became one of my more concerns. She had just found out like 5 days prior to our meeting that she had to spend the money in a certain amount of time. She says she thought the board knew. So my concern was, as you know, we all did the bond. We did like a lot of pre-bond planning. John was excellent on getting, as soon as it passed, he had confidence in us. And it was like we're looking for more money starting to the ball. I'm not sure they're ready to, if they go, because they're having a public session. They'll vote on if they want it on the ballot. It'll be on the ballot in May, and then it would go in June. That's awfully fast, or July 1st. That's awfully fast first round. They don't, as far as I know, they don't have a city, like a planner on board. I mean, like you know how we had HMK and John that was doing, it sounds like right now the city manager is also going to be in charge of Tura. And I'm not sure the capacity that the staff has. Also planning, because there's a lot of funding we've been talking about of state funding coming for building affordable housing. And I have a really concern that the capacity in the city is not going to be able to do funding with incoming projects that the state is funding, plus Tura projects, plus the projects they're already currently having. I think the city is a great partner, but we've been planning the Culver property and it's been a lot slower than I had anticipated. And so I'm kind of concerned on, for us, like, are we going to be pushed back further on our planning projects such as Culver Road if they take on Tura because their capacity isn't going to be done? And then when you're trying to beat the time and not prepared, sometimes mistakes happen. And I'm not sure that I don't want families to live in a neighborhood where maybe mistakes were happening. She had mentioned when planning started, they hadn't planned a certain neighborhood to be, it came back more compacted. So there was more houses in the area and more residents in that area than there was prior, which is great. But now the services that provide that area, such as water and sidewalks and stuff, aren't sufficient for that area. And so that's another concern. If the city is not up to capacity, the safety of our families. Because I'm kind of like, well, am I overstepping my boundaries of saying, but it sounded like she legitimately wanted our advice. Should they go out for the bond and the Tura project? Should they wait for a year? I really feel like they have a lot of more work to do. And I asked about the questions we had in the workshop too, about how they were engaging families. Was it two-way engagement? Were they making sure that just because they build it, was it something families really wanted? I said, I don't really know because I haven't done the work, but it seems like a lot of families are multi-generational. They, some families like to have like gatherings. Is there a gathering space? Have you talked about how multi-generation will work in like an apartment complex? And I don't think they have. And so I don't want to have our families move into something that they think is like their only option and then have to move again because it's not an option that works for their family. So those were kind of my concerns. But then Sarah went to the meeting too.
So I attended the town halls and I attended two. Well, one I attended was the planning meeting, and then I attended a town hall. And between those two, I was able to get the city manager's full report because I only caught half and half. And some of the Jackson County concerns were brought up. And 17 years is a long time to impact budgets. You just don't know what's happening in 17 years for specifically public services. And if you're attracting and trying to have families come back to Talent and your population grows back and now your budget's been impacted for 17 years and they're trying to not raise property taxes to help offset this. But my concern is that by impacting the budgets of the library and Jackson County Soil and Water Conservation and public services like City and Fire, they may have to go for a bond to make those budgets anyway. And now City of Talent's kind of covered themselves a little bit because they'll be able to oversee the Tura money, but the other agencies are going to have to go for a bond, and now you've got public opinion. So I agree with Dawn that waiting another year to really get their ducks in a row and to help some of the state and federal money that's coming for housing, because then their number, right, looks even better. They waited a year kind of already. If they wait one more year, some of those projections, and there is a concern and a real one about how much longer families waiting to have things built to come back. But to the point of 3-story apartment complexes being built, and if you start in June and you have to spend 85% of your budget in 3 years, how do you even get time to have a two-way conversation with community engagement? Because we've seen how long that takes, and then to make the plan, and then to get it built and spent, with the challenges we've already seen with the plan to, you know, we've pushed out Talent Elementary and Talent Middle School in addition to, you know, trying for the extra grants, but also due to workforce and increased pricing and supplies. So I would support us encouraging them to wait another year. This seems really fast. And I know, you know, they brought this forth in the summer and have said, you know, we took 6 months, but I think additional time is really needed, and staff capacity, I agree with all of what Dawn said as well.
I really appreciate you both going to those meetings and gathering the information. Where we're at right now is they are deciding whether or not to file a measure, basically, that would go before residents of Talent, to put it to a ballot to ask the residents of Talent if they want to support this initiative. And so they have asked, how can you just catch us up on what is their ask of us officially?
It's really, I mean, it's not an ask. They just noticed all the partners. And if we want to have a public comment, we can submit it by February 14th, I think. And so I know we just heard a lot of testimony. We've been talking about this a few times. You know, it doesn't need any action, but if there's no objections, we can draft a letter to basically suggest that they wait due to that we have many concerns. We don't have to outline our concerns. We could just say, you know, we don't feel like the timing is right now with so many unanswered questions. And we can draft a letter maybe with board chair and the vice chair and send that before that time, so it's on record.
I would just say, I mean, it's kind of a tough decision for me because I think they should wait, but also I think families want to come back, and I appreciate them trying to think outside the box and trying to do it quickly. I just want to make sure that we're doing it. Sometimes quickly is not right. And so I want to make sure that they know we still want to partner with them, and we appreciate them thinking of our families. But yeah, and I asked them to talk to John too, because I said there's a lot of planning, and you need to be ready when it passes to go that day, the next day, and start work. And if you're not, you're going to get behind quickly.
Yeah. If it's the right thing to do, then they should be prepared, and they should make sure all the ducks in a row so that the voters can support it too. Because that's the other piece of this. It's got to get the support of the voters, and if it's the right thing to do, they should make sure all those things are in place before they even put it on the ballot, much like we did with the bond, right? So yeah, are there any objections or to that type of thing? It's too late really to, I mean, we could, yeah, I don't know that it would make sense to take some formal action on the part of the board, but I think we've gathered some good information, and that information in part is a lot of unanswered questions. So yeah, go ahead.
I think like Brent said at the last meeting, even the meeting before, it's important for the school district to be in writing, to have a position on, because they've asked. And so it's important for us to have gathered this information and then present our concerns in writing. And the other concern is that the City of Talent in Tura is impacting regional funds, not just City of Talent funds, because the fire department and the library and Jackson County, and all of those funding sources impact not just City of Talent, they impact the Phoenixtown School District, which goes all the way to Barnett. And so I'm a little concerned about how they're wanting to fund it, and did they really get all of the information from those impacted about what sort of funding mechanisms were going to be in place for impacted budgets for 17 years. That's a long time to impact budget.
And sorry. I also might add, and Tiffany and I had this discussion too, it also affects every student in our state. If we're bringing in less property taxes, but we're still getting the same state school fund, it's coming from somewhere. People are backfilling that somewhere in the state. So it really has a wide, and that's how those projects work anyway. That it's not the only Tura project that does that, but you just have to think about that, and is it the right time right now?
And lest we not forget, I think, Nancy, it was you who you either asked a question or you said something that was really astute last meeting, which was, what about the impacts on the people? Have we gotten feedback, and do we understand the impacts on our residents, and for us, our families, right? And yeah, so I'm happy to, I'll take, in a way, you guys sort of formed a de facto committee, and I'm happy to put my name on something that addresses, as members of the board, having gone and really gathered this feedback. I'm happy to do that. Nancy, did you have something?
And if we can add that, that's such a critical piece of this process, having that community input. And what does that look like? And my hope is that there is some accountability to that work, right? And otherwise, it's in writing from school district.
I think we can affirm our support for wanting to bring our families home. We can address the fact that we do have concerns and recommend they wait. And Nancy, to your point, I think we can say, and we hope that you'll take this time to make sure that you really have good feedback from the people who this will impact, and will hopefully benefit from something like this. But yeah, that piece feels like a missing piece for sure. Rick, did you have something?
Yeah, I appreciate what both these people have said, and I agree with them. Is there, if we were to write a letter that you're talking about, when is the deadline for this letter? And it's just, should it be moved to an action item or not?
I think it would be one of those things that would be from the board leadership on behalf of the board, taking into account the feedback that we've discussed today. Yeah. It's kind of too late they're requesting action they're requesting feedback by the 15th, our next board meeting, or the 14th. Okay.
They're having public notice on the 15th. They would like all written things by the 14th so they can include that. If it's I can't remember, Yasmin might be able to help, or Brent, something about if it's a verbal comment, it doesn't have as much when they documentation, it's the documentation that goes out to the public and goes on to other entities is not the same. So they recommended that a written letter, for the way the process is better for documentation for us in the future. and it
Yeah.
had to be by the 14th, so that
Okay.
the board would know how many, or the council would know how many letters of pro and con or concern or whatever, when they make their decision.
Okay.
So I would, maybe the 13th. I would say I would
Yeah.
probably get it in as sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I think, and you bring up a good point, but we could also do it with, I could write it as a superintendent with board support and discussion, then do that, and it'll be from the superintendent, and so.
Okay.
Might be a better way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can get that in, and we'll start working on that right away. So.
Okay.
With those 3 themes that you mentioned, Mike.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Yeah, I mean, we want to reaffirm, we're all on the same page about bringing our families home. Definitely. So, and, yeah. Great. Any other questions, thoughts? Appreciate the insight, the thoughtfulness. Thank you. Next is SRO Marshall Program.
Yeah, this is an exciting opportunity, and I think the City of Talent is actually excited about it too, because they want to be able to serve our schools in Talent, but understand the funding challenges, as we kind of just discussed. But the SRO program, we have tremendous SROs, and both municipalities support that. But the Marshall program is a program that Grants Pass have been using for, I think it's on its 8th year, so it stood the test of time. And it's really retired police officers that are recently retired, and they go through the school marshal training, and they're part of your staff. They don't necessarily make arrests, they don't do citations, they don't do anything else. But they are part of the staff that or part of the school funded by the school district and the municipality to have another presence for safety in our schools. And talking with Rick about this and being on our safety team with our county and local representatives, we thought it might be a good work session topic just to talk school safety in general in March, and to really kind of dive into what this Marshall program how it can expand our safety supports in our schools. And then we can also kind of see where we are with SRO program. City of Phoenix is in a little bit different spot. They have the desire to actually bring another school resource officer on board. They have a little more of a funding mechanism that is supportive of that. They're going to bring in whatever it was, hundreds of acres in the UGB. And so they'll need some they'll have some additional revenue for that. So, but the City of Talent and maybe even Orchard Hill could benefit from the Marshall program. So that's what we might suggest to bring that back to study.
Any questions about that? Sounds exciting. Safety is always on top of everyone's mind for sure. And it's exciting to think about innovative ways to continue to make sure our kids are safe. Excellent. Okay. Any questions about policy BCF other than what Rick raised about the green language? No. Okay. Policy CB, superintendent. You want to speak to this?
I support it.
Of course you do. Yeah. Yes. So these are statutory changes. Those of you who remember COVID and some of the interesting things that were happening with superintendents around the state who faced adverse employment action based on not wanting to not comply with laws and statutes. That's where we're at today. So any questions on CB? Okay. And how about CBC? Okay. And then EH, records and data management. Any questions on that policy?
just a reminder, the blue language is what staff recommend.
Okay.
The blue language, and
The
that's
blue.
what we do in practice right now.
Okay, that's what you recommend.
Yeah.
Any questions? Oh, okay. The draft agenda for next meeting is there for your review. Any questions about that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is number 5 on information and discussion? Integrated guidance report.
Good question.
Great question. So that's the, what we've been discussing. That report is due in March. And so it's been parallel with our strategic planning. And so there's 6 initiatives that we've shared that we are been working to really devise this plan that's due in March. And so we'll present that as a first draft next meeting. So
Was some of this from the survey information that was shared at the work study session? Am I understanding?
yeah,
Am I tracking with the?
yeah,
No,
all-
yes.
all of that goes into kind of creating a long-term plan. And it also is a little more detailed than the strategic plan because Yasmin has to put budget numbers to every item on those grants. So. The only question and Sarah, you brought it up earlier, is when the timing of the superintendent evaluation, if we want to do that. Typically, we do that the next meeting where there's a longer executive session. I talked to Chair Campbell. We could push that out to March 2nd to have a longer executive session and then the summary in April, which may be better timing. It gives everybody a little more timing to do their evaluation and then chair to kind of write the summary.
I would advocate for that, specifically since the Tura letter and all of that is, the meeting for that is the night before. So if we were going to have any interest in participating in that, having a longer meeting than the next night. So if we're in, if March is still within the guidelines, I would say that.
Any objections to that? Okay. Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you so much for all of your participation today. And like John said, it's so good to see everybody in one place. So thank you. We are adjourned.